On a recent trip, on my birthday 2019, to Edinburgh, Scotland, and visit to the castle where this photo was taken, shows Robert the Bruce being crowned first King of Scotland. He was my 17th great-grandfather, if you can believe Ancestry.com. The city was very old and had lots of history. It was at a much smaller scale than what I will see in a few days in London. The photo shows the town of Edinburgh from the castle. You can clearly see Arthur's Seat, also a view from our room window. We also climbed near the top.
Never came in. Never came in.
Jenny and I both celebrated our birthdays at dinner that night. I tried haggis for the first time and enjoyed it. We also had oysters, liver pot, drinks, and many other wonderful things. We found the people wonderful, including the cab drivers, the food excellent, and the sights extraordinary. It also allowed me to check off another country that I visited. I will say that we found it very cold and it did rain on us that first night. Our next stop is London. Was our 5th train that we rode on since arriving in England. We arrived at the station and only had a short walk to our hotel, which was right across from King Cross Square and 2 train station. Other than that, I will not rate it very high except for its view. And was across from the training station that Harry Potter left from and his famous 9 3/4 track, which I did see. The only sunny day, maybe it was only an hour or two, that we saw in London happened at the Tower of London, which was more of a castle. I had the best hot cocoa here. So, what was the first thing we did? Yes, go inside to see the crown jewels. Now, that was all that 2 wanted to see, but just saying we could have also done it when it was raining. That being said, they were very impressive, much more than the ones in Edinburgh. The actual jewels and the history behind them were fascinating. The Tower of London, officially Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress of the Tower of London, to my surprise was not a tower, is a historic castle located on the north bank of the River Thames in central London. It lies within the London borough of Tower Hamlets, which is separated from the eastern edge of the square mile of the City of London by the open space known as Tower Hill. It was founded towards the end of 1066 as part of the Norman conquest of England. The White Tower, which gives the entire castle its name, was built by William the Conqueror in 1078 and was a resented symbol of oppression inflicted upon London by the new ruling elite. The castle was used as a prison from 1100 until 1952, although that was not its primary purpose. A grand palace early in its history, it served as a royal residence. As a whole, the tower is a complex of several buildings set within two concentric rings of defensive walls and a moat. There were several phases of expansion, mainly under Kings Richard I, Henry III, and Edward I in the 12th and 13th centuries. The general layout established by the late 13th century remains despite later activity on the site. After we had explored most of the castle, seen the crown jewels, and had tea, we were ready to move on. Our plan was to go down to the Thames River and take a boat cruise to the London Eye. But as you can see, the clouds are rolling in and it started to rain while we waited on the boat to come. My first thoughts when seeing the sight represented in the photo was, what is a Florida dolphin doing in a place like this? It continued to rain on the cruise and while we were waiting to get on the London Eye. As you can see from the photo, it was raining the whole time. The photo shows the Thames River, Westminster, and Big Ben. A considerable amount of maintenance is going on. It looked like we would not see the rain let up, so when we got to Buckingham Palace it was still raining lightly. But the Queen was in based on the flag flying. It would have been much more impressive if it were a nice sunny day, but then this was England in November. The next day we will leave from the London St Pancras International train station to travel on the Eurostar to Paris Gare du Nord training station. The Eurostar travels at speeds of 186 miles per hour on land, and 100 miles per hour in the Channel, thanks to high-speed railway line High Speed 1, first implemented on November 14, 2003. In September 2007, the record times travelled from Paris to St Pancras was set with 2 hours 3 minutes and 39 seconds. But that does not tell the whole story. The ride was amazingly comfortable, smooth, and the food was good, especially the ride back from Paris. The meal included wine, which we tried several of the bottles offered. For two, this was the reasons we were going to Paris, but for me it would be my first time. The first thing that we wanted to do was to go from the rail station to see Notre Dame, which was straight south from it. We thought about walking, but that was not a good idea. We asked for some information on the buses and took it instead. The Seine River flows on both sides of the island that Notre Dame is found on. The photo is taken from a bridge on the north side of that island. Our next stop you will recognize right away. I had to say that I was overly impressed with the Eiffel Tower. It was everything that I expected and more. It was huge and the view around Paris was breathtaking. It highlights the city and the city surrounds the tower. It is hard to see from this photo, but it was also undergoing repairs. I included several photos here, but they do not do it justice. If there is just one thing that you do in Paris, it is that you go to the top, just for the view. I will say that making reservation ahead of time is what you should do, not what I did, because even in the off-season there is a large demand for going to the top. It is 324 meters tall, including antennas, and weighs 10,100 tons. Today the tower welcomes almost 7 million people a year, making it the most visited paid-for monument in the world, just a few less on the day I was there. The height of the Eiffel Tower varies by 5.9 inches, 15 centimeters, due to temperature changes. I of course was there on one of its short days. It was very cold. 300 workers, 18,038 pieces of wrought iron and 2.5 million rivets were needed to build the Eiffel Tower.
See that guy? That poor guy.
The majority of visitors, 10.4%, are French, following by Italy and Spain, 8.1% each, USA, 7.9%, Britain, 7.4%, Germany, 5.8%, and Brazil, 5.5%. Standing 984 feet high upon completion on March 15, 1889, the Eiffel Tower became the world's tallest structure. It kept that honor for 41 years until the Chrysler Building topped it out in 1930. When we returned it was always to our home base in Shore, near Manchester. It was a very typical English home located at the end of an alleyway. From there we went on our many travels, but also visited the moor and local restaurants. A view of Shore from the moor, hills. Fall was definitely in the air and may have already passed based on how cold it was. And the rain did not help, but then I was told that this was English weather. Haggis was probably the one surprise that was not expected. Haggis is Scotland's national dish and the crowning glory of a traditional Burns supper, and although it is an object of Scottish culinary fascination around the world, it certainly is not a beauty queen. I have to admit that over the years I have never heard anything good about it. So, it was very much to my surprise when I took my first bite. It was awesome and probably the best dish I had on this trip. But then I also tried black pudding. On this trip we ate at many restaurants. We had Chinese, French, German, Italian, and English foods while in England. Scottish food in Scotland. French food while in Paris. Oh, we also had Kentucky Fried Chicken a couple of times at home in Shore. It was all great and I enjoyed every bite. It helped to fight off the cold. I was pleasantly surprised, not expecting that the food would be all that great. I am not sure where I got that information, but it has been with me for some time. I am glad that I was proven wrong.